Hello and welcome back to Tech Time Today. I am your host, Jeff Welpley, and in this episode, I am talking to my good friend, Kent C Dodds, about MCP, or Model Context Protocol, which is a proposed standards that should allow LLMs like Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT to integrate to your application to actually call out to functionality that you provide. We get into a lot of great areas of discussion, and I always have an amazing time talking to Kent, and this is no different. This episode is an absolute banger. Enjoy.
Yeah. So the basic or the easiest way that I can relate it is the future that I am seeing most likely to happen is host applications to LLMs like Claude Desktop and ChatGPT become the new browser, and MCP servers become the new website. So like all the user interactions that we're building for in UI and things, having drop downs and form inputs and all of that stuff is better done through natural language. It's just easier to have a natural language conversation about the data entry you're doing or whatever. Like you could literally snap a photo of a form and have it automatically fill in all those fields and everything, right? That would be really nice. And so the other thing is that like every single website doesn't need to build an LLM wrapper for like a custom integration to make that experience of natural language with their website easier. Users are already paying for an LLM to do stuff for them, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude. And so there's a standard called Model Context Protocol, that's MCP, that was created by Anthropic and is being adopted by Google and OpenAI. And I'm sure others, to make a standard protocol for communicating between the LLM and the service that you're providing. And so with this, it gives a natural language experience for interacting with your service. And there are a ton of things. I could go on for a long time about the implications of this. And companies are already, big companies that are already making MCP servers to like bring their services to where the users want to be, which is inside of an LLM app. So anyway, with A2A, the idea is that you have thinking about a user communicating with natural language with their LLM, and they say, hey, I want you to do this thing, and it goes off and it does the thing and it comes back with a response. But sometimes there are things that are going to take a long time, or they're on a schedule of some kind or something. And so that's where you end up with a more like agentic service, where it's a thing that's going on in the background. It's on a cron job or something like that. And sometimes you'll also have services that are from separate service providers, or even the same, but separate services that need to communicate with each other. And so having a standard protocol for that means that you don't have to be using the same AI models, and you don't have to be using like you literally are using a specified format, which is what makes it possible. So you don't have to have like specific integration with company A to company B. You just like everybody supports this standard, and so you don't you just integrate naturally. You say, oh, you support A2A, great. So do I. We maybe you have like a client ID or something like that for authorization and stuff, but outside of that, it's like the whole spec just kind of covers all of the different things that you can do. So I think it's actually a pretty likely future that MCP covers the user to MCP server interaction, and then A2A just covers the service to service interaction. I actually don't think that is problematic. That seems like a pretty good future. There is still potential where MCP just covers all of it. That awaits to be seen. But right now, my primary focus is MCP, and we'll see where A2A goes.
But like, I create my own MCP server out there does whatever, it creates widgets or whatever. how is somebody, in using Claude, going to find your thing?
That is such a great question. And I have a vision for the future of what I think is going to play out. And if honestly, if it doesn't play out this way, then I'm going to build it myself because it just seems like such an obvious way for this to go. But the way that I see this happening is there, and actually, this is in the specification of MCP, though I don't know if you'd consider this a spec. It's on the roadmap anyway. But there, Anthropic is working on a registry for MCPs, and so you could register your MCP with that registry, kind of like NPM or something. And there are already I've seen at least 3 registries that other people have put together as well. So there's like some, I guess you could say, competition in this space. But my vision of the future is whether it's registry or some other mechanism for discoverability, like Google has been indexing stuff. You don't need to add your website to the registry. You can use the webmaster tools and stuff, but like eventually, if somebody links to it, Google will find it. So in any case, I do expect it to be a lot more like Google. So I think of the LLM host application being like a human assistant. And if you just think of everything through that lens, then some of this is crystallized for you. And so if I tell a human assistant, hey, I need to book a flight to this place, and that human assistant has never done that before, they're going to go over to Google and they're going to figure out, how do I book a flight? They'll figure that out and they'll go to the right website for this. I might even say, I prefer Delta. I like the aisle seat. And so then they'll say, okay, find me Delta. Oh, I found Delta. Great. Now I'm going to figure out their UI and click all these links and whatever. With MCP, there could be some form of dynamic discovery of MCP servers. And actually, this will be very much necessary because one problem that LLMs have, and to be clear, actually, I should say that LLMs don't actually call these MCP servers. They are just given a list of what's available, and then the host application like Claude or ChatGPT, that's the thing that's actually calling these servers. And so, as part of the system prompt, that the host app just says, "Hey, here are the tools that are available for you." And so you say, "Hey, I want to book a flight." It's going to have to look through, infinity tools that are available that you might want, and it's going to choose the wrong one. It's just like it's very difficult for an LLM to generate the tokens necessary to pick the correct tool. And so I think it actually is imperative that we have some sort of dynamic discovery mechanism in place. And so the LLM will deter as kind of an agentic experience. It's just like, okay, tell me what tools, like I need a tool that kind of does this, go find me one. The host application will do a search of some kind in some registry. It will come back with results of tools. And then the LLM will say, oh, based on these tools, I think this one is the one that I want to call. And then the host application will call that one. So that's kind of how I see this going. So that, because like imagine right now if your browser had to have an index of every possible action that could be taken on the internet, like that's impossible. It just wouldn't work. And so
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
dynamic discovery of tools is, I think, a critical part of making this as useful as it can be.
Almost certainly, it's not hard to imagine that there'll be hundreds, thousands of services, MCP based services available to potentially to different LLMs to book a flight. And so the specifics of like how exactly that one is chosen over another is going to be really interesting to see how it like plays out. Because so the reason why I'm like so super interested and I wanted to get you on the line about this or whatever is like this is like almost an exact corollary to what the main thing I've been focused on, and up until a couple of years ago, for like a decade before that, with like SEO and search. That like the
Yeah.
whole thing with creating a website, and getting it on a search engine, and there's all the different SEO hacks and stuff like that to get different ranked or whatever else, and essentially I feel like eventually something along those lines is going to play out. I don't know what the different criteria are going to be of like how it figures out one or another. Maybe it's on
Hmm.
user feedback afterwards, or I don't know what. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. It'll be one of those things. There's no answer.
Uh-huh.
You have to see.
Yeah, I it was like last week I posted that eventually I think there will be a discipline around MCP server description optimization, where you optimize the description of your MCP
Hmm.
server so that it's picked as the one. And maybe it won't be that so much. I actually like what you talked about, where it's kind of a user, maybe not user feedback, but like the LLM can feed that chat history into some other process that says, tell me what this experience was like and rank it based on
Hmm.
criteria. And then and so then it actually is interesting, because with Google you had page rank, and there's a lot of ways to game that, and they've changed it all over the years. But it's just really difficult for Google to really know, like, how valuable was this result for the user. Like they say, oh well, you had bounce back and different stuff like that. But see, now you can actually get a really good insights on the experience that the user had working with a particular MCP. And so if it was a really frustrating, and like you can even see that the user was all caps yelling at the LLM if they were really upset about
Right.
something.
So that's why I feel like whatever this discoverability mechanism is should, and maybe even in the protocol itself, there should be things built into it to capture and keep the some level of feedback mechanism to know which is good or not. It's one thing if you're booking flights, okay, but there's plenty if we're doing the corollary of the current web kind of economy to this like new economy based off of everybody using LLM chat interfaces or voice or whatever instead of web browsing, and I'm sure they'll still do some web browsing, but in this new world, um, free content. So like free content right now, um, it's valuable because you have eyeballs on your web page and you can convert that to money or to value through ads or through like you get them to sign up and like then then the end provider has like that them as a user
Mm-hmm.
when they don't actually go to that end provider and it's just all through this other interface and they never actually go there. There's got to be some way to give value back.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, other than for like high value stuff like buying, like for more informational based things and that type of thing, what's the incentive for the provider?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, like I mean, since ChatGPT showed up, people are like, "Well, I'm never going back to Google now." And like if all of the content we're consuming is kind of being pulled from those authors, but they're not getting value, because now we're just in fact, even like on Google and Brave and everything, they do the AI summary, so you don't even have to click on the links. So even outside of MCP and everything, just like this new age of AI based consumption is just really fascinating. It's very interesting. So yeah, I wonder if newspaper subscription type things are going to be more common in the future. Or maybe like that's not necessary. I think at least it seems this way for Elon Musk. He's just like, yeah, you are the media now, and so like we don't need news reporters to report on the news. Maybe you have like pundits who have some experience and context that is better than the AI, and so we're paying those people to give us like their thoughts on what's going on in the news. But you can just ask Grok, like, what are people saying about this thing that's happening right now? And it can give you up to date information faster than you could get from a news article. And so, yeah, then it I'm just not sure how long ads are going to be a viable approach or solution for the monetization strategy for those outlets, unless you end up with an LLM host application like ChatGPT or Claude that add ads to their platform somehow, which would be an interesting move. Part of the thing I like about ads is that it makes things accessible to people who don't have money or can't spend money online for some reason or
Right.
whatever. So like there is value there. But yeah, I personally I love paying for stuff so I don't have to see ads. So that's still a crazy or a hazy thing for me. I'm not sure what that future is going to look like.
Yeah, I wonder. So, I mean, the last thing on this topic or whatever is just that, like, I wonder if built into it's one thing for, okay, on the discoverability side in the future, some way of LLMs being able to determine what is the right provider for a particular thing that they need. But potentially, maybe if you have a high value provider, it can be the other way too, where it can specify what interfaces are allowed to utilize this, because they only want the ones that, like, if, for example, Gemini implements something that has some sort of rev share based off of whatever metrics that, like, if,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to use you and I'll give you back some value or whatever, and you as a provider are like, okay, only show me on those interfaces that actually do this thing, or what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, maybe
I
that's something
part
that
of
could be
me
added.
I was just thinking like, okay, so maybe Google, as like the biggest search engine in the world, would be interested in becoming the MCP registry, or like, because it's already got good ways of measuring um, the value of different things. But then it's like, well, okay, so how do they make money? It's because people, have ads and sponsored content. And so now if I use Google as my MCP resolver or identifier, can I really trust that the MCPs that are being discovered and used are actually the best, or are they just like the first result, which is paid for? And so I like what you're saying, where there's a revenue share between the provider and the host application. This human or user interaction model is going to change quite a lot of things. I think there will be like applications that are built that never have a user interface beyond this chatting with it through an LLM. But the problem with that idea is, like, there are apps that you use that you've developed muscle memory with, and you have like, a couple clicks to get to this thing, and like it's just sometimes an actual interface is better than just chatting, right? With like text, with natural language. For example, a stopwatch, really good, easy, quick example. You don't want to have to type the word start and type the word stop every time you want it to start and stop. Like a button is better
Yeah.
for something like that. Um, Now, sometimes you might want to say the word start and say the word stop because maybe you're lifting weights and your hands are busy, but you can like talk. So, like, being able to do both, I think, is really important. And we've already proven over the last few years that we can generate UIs, like reasonable UIs, especially for small widgets like that, really easily. And so I do think, and I actually have a discussion on the spec right now for supporting a content or response content type for UI. And so you can say, like, say Google Maps. If I were to do a search and say, like, get me directions to the nearest taco stand, it could say, okay, walk 30 steps this way and then turn left, like with text, which would be a terrible user experience. Or Google Maps has an MCP for like doing that sort of a search, and so it responds with a map. And it has like your location. So, but it's all the cool thing about it is it's all embedded inside of this chat history, and maybe you
Yeah.
can like full screen it or something. But yeah, I think you so like you have the map, and then you say, great, when I get there, make sure to, text my friend. And so, okay, I'll schedule that, make that happen. And like, this app kind of is the everything, and it can generate UIs. It can, whatever is the best thing for it. And you say, hey, I'm actually going to put you in my pocket. Could you tell me the directions in my ear? Like, it just can do all of these things with seamless natural language. And then again, like, maybe you need directions to this place all the time, or maybe a better example, you need a stopwatch like on a regular basis. I think that apps as we know it, even on your phone, are going to go away and be replaced by this idea where you generate a UI and then you say, I like that UI, save that, and now that becomes like an app on your phone, and you can
Mm.
share this with other people. And maybe you're an engineer, you build it and you put it on an app store or some, I'm not sure whether there'll be like a registry of these kinds of basically their prompts or prompt results, but some mechanism for sharing this, for saving it. And so you can just cook it open, you don't have to do any natural language for these sorts of things that are just like, I do this all the time, I don't want to have to tell it every single time. And so I just keep on thinking of all these different things that people are going to be like, yeah, but, and finding really obvious solutions to, or at least it seems obvious to me, solutions to these problems, which makes the future seem really exciting. Now, things absolutely could play out differently than I think, but however they play out, I think it's going to be a much better user experience for us.
Yeah, I mean, some really interesting stuff in that. I mean, one thing that stuck with me is how for future web developers, React developers, Angular developers, maybe it won't be fully dead. Maybe they'll turn into just like more like widgets,
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
the different interactions rather than kind of like full blown websites and all that type of stuff, or at least not as much anymore. That'd
Yeah.
be really interesting, and it would make a lot of sense, because you're right that sometimes the user doesn't need a visual. Sometimes they do. So like, being able to cater that. I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's all about creating the best user experience.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense.
100%.
And actually, I wonder if I was thinking originally. One thing you got me thinking about is like, I was originally thinking that in these interactions with MCP servers, that maybe people will start to try to actively pull the users to their website, like pull them away from the
Mm.
LLM to like their own thing. But maybe not. Maybe like it'll be eventually be so good through the LLM that unless they're creating their own LLM, like it's kind of pointless. You might as well
Yeah.
keep the user there and just be a good provider.
Yes. I think that's a better user experience to not jump around to different websites and just have, it's the everything app. It's Jarvis from Iron Man. Like I tell it what I want it to do, and it can integrate with all the different services for me. EpicAI.pro is where I'm going to be teaching people about this vision and how to transition from wherever they are into a good role in this position. This is one of the things that like a lot of developers are worried about their future as developers with AI doing all the coding and everything. And I actually think that this is where we're all going to go, and we actually have a lot to do in this space too. I don't think AI is just going to take our jobs. It's going to be a big help. But it is going to completely change user interaction. So I'm going to invite people on my journey with EpicAI.pro.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like the reason why a lot of people, I mean, some people do feel like it'll take their job, but I feel like actually more so for developers at least, it's not as much take my job worry as it is just uncertainty, like of
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not sure. Like I guess I'll be okay, but I really don't know how things are gonna be in the future or whatever. But I think that a lot of the work that you're doing now helps to clarify that. So like I feel like even if people don't use specifically everything that you're teaching, today, I feel like listening to the type of things that you're talking about helps you to kind of just get it solidified in your mind where things are going, and then that helps you kind of drive you forward. So I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate all the work you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. It's always nice to chat with you. It's been a long time, so I'm glad we got to chat a bit.